Marcus wiped the sweat from his forehead as he pushed the cleaning cart down the long hallway of Lincoln Elementary School. The afternoon sun streamed through the tall windows, casting golden light across the freshly mopped floors. It was 4:30 p.m., and most of the teachers and students had already gone home, leaving the building quiet except for the gentle hum of the air conditioning and the soft squeak of his cartwheels. At 35 years old, Marcus had been working as a janitor at the school for 3 years. It wasn't the career he had dreamed of as a young man, but life had a way of changing plans. After his wife Sarah passed away from cancer when their daughter Emma was only 6, Marcus had to make difficult choices. His previous job as a restaurant manager required long evening hours and weekend shifts, time he couldn't afford to be away from Emma, who was now 9 and needed her father more than ever. The janitor position at Emma's school was perfect in many ways. He could be there when she arrived in the morning, check on her during lunch breaks, and walk her home after he finished his shift. The pay wasn't much, but it was honest work. And more importantly, it allowed him to be the present father Emma deserved. As Marcus cleaned the classrooms, he often hummed quietly to himself, old songs his mother used to sing, church hymns, and sometimes the lullabies he sang to Emma at bedtime. Music had always been his escape, his way of processing emotions and finding peace in difficult moments. Few people knew that before Sarah got sick, he used to perform at local coffee shops and small venues around town. His guitar still sat in the corner of their small apartment, collecting dust but never forgotten. One Thursday afternoon, as Marcus was emptying trash cans in the main office, he overheard Principal Rodriguez talking to the music teacher, Mrs. Chen, about the upcoming annual talent show. "We're still short on adult participants," Mrs. Chen was saying, looking worried. "The kids love it when teachers and staff join in. It makes the whole event feel more special." Principal Rodriguez nodded thoughtfully. "What about asking some of the support staff? Maybe maintenance or cafeteria workers would be interested." Marcus pretended to focus on his work, but his heart began to race. The talent show was a big deal at Lincoln Elementary. Emma had been talking about it for weeks, excited to see her classmates perform magic tricks, dance routines, and sing songs. She had even asked Marcus if he would ever consider participating, but he had gently declined, explaining that he preferred to stay in the background. The truth was, Marcus was terrified of being in the spotlight. After Sarah's death, his confidence had taken a severe blow. He struggled with feelings of inadequacy and worry about whether he was enough for Emma on his own. The idea of standing in front of hundreds of parents, teachers, and children felt overwhelming. The following week, Marcus was cleaning the gymnasium after school when he encountered Brad Hutchinson, a father of one of Emma's classmates. Brad worked in sales at a large tech company and had a reputation for being loud and somewhat condescending. He was at school picking up his son from basketball practice. "Hey, janitor guy," Brad called out, his voice echoing in the empty gym. "You're Emma's dad, right?" Marcus nodded politely. "Yes, sir, I'm Marcus. I heard through the grapevine that the school is looking for adults to perform in the talent show," Brad continued, a smirk playing on his lips. "You should sign up. I bet you've got some hidden talents. Maybe you could demonstrate proper mopping techniques on stage." A few other parents who were waiting nearby chuckled at Brad's comment. Marcus felt his cheeks burn with embarrassment, but he kept his voice steady. "I appreciate the suggestion," Marcus replied diplomatically, "but I think I'll stick to keeping the school clean." Brad wasn't finished. "Come on, don't be shy. I'm sure Emma would love to see her dad up there, unless you're too scared to get in front of a crowd." His tone was mocking, designed to provoke. Marcus could feel the other parents watching the exchange. Some looked uncomfortable with Brad's behavior, while others seemed entertained by the confrontation. He thought about Emma, who was probably in after-school care, working on her homework and unaware that her father was being humiliated. Actually, Marcus found himself saying, his voice stronger than he felt inside, maybe I will sign up. The words surprised him as much as they surprised Brad, but something in the man's mocking tone had triggered a defensive response. Marcus had spent years trying to be invisible, to not make waves, to simply provide for Emma without drawing attention to their circumstances. But in that moment, he realized he was tired of being looked down upon. That evening, Marcus sat in their small kitchen while Emma worked on her math homework at the table. The guitar case in the corner seemed to be calling to him, but he couldn't bring himself to open it. "Dad, you seem quiet tonight," Emma observed, looking up from her worksheet. "Everything okay?" Marcus smiled at his daughter. She had Sarah's intuitive nature and kind eyes. At 9 years old, she was already remarkably perceptive about other people's emotions. "I did something today that scared me a little," Marcus admitted. "I signed up to perform in your school's talent show." Emma's eyes widened with excitement. "Really? That's amazing. What are you going to do?" "I was thinking about singing," Marcus said carefully, "but I'm not sure it's a good idea. It's been a long time since I performed in front of people." Emma put down her pencil and looked at him seriously. "Dad, I remember when Mum was sick, and you used to sing to both of us at night. Your voice made everything feel better, even when she was having her worst days. I think other people would feel better hearing you sing too." Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. Emma rarely talked about those difficult months when Sarah was battling cancer, but when she did, her words carried a wisdom beyond her years. That night, after Emma was asleep, Marcus finally opened the guitar case. The instrument felt familiar and foreign at the same time. His fingers found the frets naturally, muscle memory intact despite the years of neglect. He played softly, not wanting to wake Emma, and gradually his voice joined in. The talent show was held on a Friday evening. In the school gymnasium, the bleachers were packed with families and colorful decorations hung from the ceiling. Marcus peeked through the curtains at the edge of the stage and felt his stomach drop. There had to be at least 300 people in the audience. Emma found him backstage, wearing her best dress and a huge smile. "I'm so proud of you, Dad," she whispered, giving him a tight hug. "Mom would be proud too." The show began with the student performances. Marcus watched from the wings as children performed magic tricks, dance routines, comedy skits, and musical numbers. The audience was warm and encouraging, cheering enthusiastically for each act. Principal Rodriguez had scheduled Marcus near the end of the program, right before the finale group song. As his turn approached, Marcus felt his palms sweating and his heart racing. He considered backing out. After all, who would really notice if the janitor didn't show up? But then he spotted Brad Hutchinson in the audience, sitting with his arms crossed and a skeptical expression. Something about that look reminded Marcus why he had signed up in the first place. This wasn't just about proving something to a bully. It was about showing Emma that her father was brave enough to step out of the shadows when it mattered. "Ladies and gentlemen," Principal Rodriguez announced, "our next performer is someone who works hard every day to keep our school clean and safe for our children. Please welcome Marcus Thompson." The applause was polite but subdued as Marcus walked onto the stage carrying his guitar. He could see Emma in the front row, beaming with pride. He adjusted the microphone and took a deep breath. "Good evening, everyone," Marcus began, his voice slightly shaky. 3 years ago, I started working here as a janitor. It's honest work, and it allows me to be close to my daughter Emma, who means everything to me." He found Emma in the crowd and smiled. This song is for her and for anyone who has ever felt like they didn't belong. Marcus positioned his fingers on the guitar and began to play. The opening chords of "Stand By Me" filled the gymnasium. His voice, rusty from lack of use but rich with emotion, began the familiar lyrics. What happened next surprised everyone, including Marcus. The audience, which had been somewhat restless during his introduction, became completely still. Parents who had been checking their phones put them away. Children who had been fidgeting in their seats sat perfectly still. Marcus's voice was beautiful, not polished like a professional recording, but authentic and full of heart. Years of pain, love, struggle, and hope poured out through the lyrics. He sang about standing by someone you love, about being there through difficult times, about the strength that comes from not facing life's challenges alone. As he reached the chorus, something magical happened. A few voices in the audience began to join in. First Emma, then some of the teachers, then more and more people, until half the gymnasium was singing along. But Marcus's voice remained the anchor, strong and clear above the crowd. By the second verse, Marcus could see that something profound was happening in the audience. Mrs. Patterson, the third-grade teacher who had recently gone through a divorce, was wiping tears from her eyes. Mr. Jenkins, the veteran custodian who rarely showed emotion, was nodding along with visible appreciation. Even Brad Hutchinson's expression had changed completely. The mocking smirk was gone, replaced by what looked like genuine surprise and respect. Marcus sang the bridge of the song with his eyes closed, pouring every ounce of emotion into the words. He thought about Sarah, about the nights they had sung this song together while she was sick. He thought about Emma, growing up so fast and handling their circumstances with remarkable grace. He thought about all the parents in the audience who were doing their best to raise their children, all the struggles that remained hidden behind polite smiles. When he opened his eyes for the final chorus, Marcus saw that many people in the audience were crying openly. These weren't tears of sadness, but of recognition of shared humanity, of the universal experiences of love and loss and perseverance that connect us all. As the final notes faded away, the gymnasium was completely silent for several seconds. Then Emma stood up and began clapping enthusiastically. Within moments, the entire audience was on their feet, applauding not just the performance, but the courage it had taken for Marcus to share his gift with them. The ovation went on for nearly 2 minutes. Marcus stood on the stage, overwhelmed by the response. He had expected polite applause, maybe some encouraging words afterward. He had never imagined that his simple song would touch so many people so deeply. Principal Rodriguez had to wait for the applause to die down before she could introduce the final act. As Marcus walked off the stage, he was stopped by parents, teachers, and even some of the older students who wanted to thank him or share how the song had affected them. Mrs. Chen, the music teacher, approached him with tears in her eyes. "Marcus, I had no idea you could sing like that. Have you ever considered giving voice lessons? We have several students who could benefit from working with someone who understands music the way you do." Even Brad Hutchinson made his way over, looking somewhat sheepish. "Listen, man, I owe you an apology. I was completely out of line last week. That was really something special up there." Marcus accepted the apology gracefully, understanding that sometimes people act badly when they're dealing with their own insecurities and problems. In the days following the talent show, Marcus noticed a change in how people interacted with him at school. Teachers who had previously offered only polite nods now stopped to chat. Parents who picked up their children would ask about his music or share stories about songs that had meaning in their own lives. More importantly, Emma seemed to walk a little taller. She had always been proud of her father, but now she saw that others recognized his worth too. The performance had shown her that her dad was not just a hard-working single parent, but a talented individual with gifts to share with the world. Mrs. Chen followed up on her suggestion about voice lessons, and Marcus began teaching a few students after school. The extra income was helpful, but more than that, Sharing his love of music gave him a sense of purpose beyond his daily maintenance duties. Marcus also started playing his guitar at home more regularly. He and Emma would have music nights where they would sing together, and he began teaching her to play simple chords. These became some of their most treasured moments together. The talent show performance became something of a legend at Lincoln Elementary. It was talked about for months afterward, and the video that one parent took on their phone was shared throughout the school community. But for Marcus, the real victory wasn't in the applause or recognition. The real victory was in learning that being vulnerable and authentic could be a source of strength rather than weakness. For too long, he had believed that keeping his head down and staying invisible was the best way to protect himself and Emma from judgment or disappointment. But that night, on the stage, he discovered that sharing his authentic self, his struggles, his love for his daughter, his musical gifts, had created connections with other people that would have been impossible otherwise. He realized that everyone in that audience was fighting battles of their own, carrying burdens that weren't always visible, and that music and honest human connection could provide comfort and strength to people who needed it most. The janitor, who had been mocked into singing on stage, had done more than entertain an audience. He had reminded an entire community that every person has value, that gifts come in unexpected packages, and that sometimes the most powerful performances come not from professional stages, but from ordinary people who find the courage to share their hearts with the world. Emma would later say that the night her father sang at the talent show was when she truly understood what it meant to be brave. And Marcus would carry the memory of that standing ovation, not as validation from others, but as a reminder of what becomes possible when we stop hiding our light under a bushel and trust that our authentic selves are worthy of being seen and heard.